over there. Out the door and off the radio.
Here's Stephen Phillips.
Well, folks, there'll be no coming in sideways on this show today because Stephen is still on vacation down there advising the cross-dresser convention on how to get more votes, I guess. But you'll be happy to know, joining me this morning, not replacing Stephen, even better than Stephen, is everyone's favorite, Sherry Rains. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, good morning. So he's down at the Gulf of America. Is that what you said yesterday?
He's in the Gulf of America with the cross-dressers. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it now. If the phone rings, Packy, don't answer it because it'll be Stephen protesting.
It might be Andrew Clyde, though. So,
are we looking for an Andrew Clyde call?
Yes, and you are going to be so excited. But I did get some preliminary, not confirmations per se, but just some. I think we're going to do this kind of confirmations from Marjorie Taylor Greene. So we'll see. Not today, but that should be happening. So look at your face light up.
I was going to say that needs to be a morning
look at
with
his
Stephen.
face light up.
No,
Packy, I'm going to be gone next Friday. Could you?
Yeah, right. No, no, it'll be a surprise, Pat. Don't you worry, brother.
Oh gosh. Oh man.
I want to know what day that show's happening. You don't have to tell Patrick, but I need to listen to that show. You ought to have Gary on too.
Oh God. Oh man. You're a glutton for punishment, aren't you?
Well, I don't have to sit here and
I know. I do know. You know, it's bad enough when they bring in the reinforcements and there's 4-1. So, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's something to look forward to.
I mean, you could say what you want about her, but there goes Harry in his Prius, and he's looking at me out the window there. But Sherry and I were talking about this. I hope I can say this, Sherry, but we were talking about this before the show. Can the Democrats get any more cringy?
No. I think we all agree that they've lost their collective minds, if they ever had one.
Like, they're just not. I guess all politicians are kind of lame in some senses because they just tell you they're going to do stuff and then they don't do it. But they're just lame, man. Like, they're just cringy. The singing, the song with that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was like I don't know, man. If it was like the Cool Al Green or something, then that'd be different. But
right.
Just recently, this last demonstration, they're telling us things and they're not going to do them. And we're happy about it because they're telling us such weird things. I mean, it baffles my mind that they think that this is where America is.
And the signs, man, like they're holding, and like we're talking about, like there's a few of them that are like not cool, I guess, but like, I mean, Fetterman just sitting there saying, I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit because he's one of the only ones who's sitting there saying, like,
I have a lot more respect for Fetterman than I did
and
originally.
we probably don't even agree on like anything really, but it's just like, I mean, he's at least he's looking at his own party and being like, dude, y'all are lame, man. Y'all are just so cringy.
Well, here's the thing, Pat, and we've talked about this before. They hate Trump so bad. There's no level of outrageousness that they won't pull off at this point. I mean, you cannot tell me that every Democratic person that was sitting in that audience actually supports men and women's sports. But because they had to remain with their collective and not react to anything, I just found it ridiculous and embarrassing.
Fetterman takes it one step farther. He not only doesn't follow the script, but he's also willing to go on and be interviewed and say, I think some of this stuff is stupid.
Right. And that's why I say I have respect for him at this point. He at least will be his own person, not be the member of the nest. It's weird.
Yeah.
To watch, but
it truly is.
Do I want to read these comments back?
You can. And if you guys want to chime in on the show, don't forget you can do it on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search for The Morning Dish. We got a bunch of people on there. You can join the chat room and tell us what you're thinking. We'll read your comments on the air and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Well, some of it might be. I don't know if this one's for Pat. It said, Pat, you're missing out at the Crossdresser Award. You have first place in a trophy. What have you done?
Was that from Stephen or some pseudo name, right?
It could have been. It could have been.
I have never appeared at a cross-dresser thing, but contrary to popular belief, Stephen has.
Okay.
I mean, wasn't he the MC of that
Oh, the possum
debacle
drop.
with the Mayor Reed and some
You're
other
right.
people up your way.
Yep, he was there for the possum drop a few years back, and a couple of the mayors and a few other prominent citizens dressed as women and performed. So, and they were not women, and it was really obvious.
I don't know. He's so against all this transgender stuff, unless it's at the possum drop. I don't know
Yeah,
why
well,
that's
you
the
know, when you get
exception.
a possum involved, it's okay.
Yeah.
So what are you saying?
weird if there's a possum.
Cross-dressing and transgenders and animals too?
Yeah, there you go. It's not weird if there's a possum.
What do they call the animal fetish thing, Packy? You know about that?
Furries.
See,
Yeah.
I knew he knew.
Yeah, I know all that. I'm your, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm your guy. Just
I will have to say, in case James Reed is listening this morning, he did look fabulous in that purple prom dress. So,
Oh boy, that means James is. That's probably one of the things he wants to forget.
Nick, our Englishman listening in, says, "Methinks Pat doth protest too much."
yeah.
Yeah,
And Rebel Boy says furries too, so he knows about your furries there, Packy. There you go.
oh,
Me and Rebel Boy, man, we're on the same page.
that explains a lot about Rebel Boy then. And Nick is using the old English, huh? Methinks Pat doth protest.
And Patty, he's calling you Patty.
Oh.
We're close to St. Patrick's Day. Speaking of, let's talk about that. What are you doing for St.
We
Patrick's?
do have a contest. If you guys have any ideas
Oh,
that you
good.
guys would like us to do, I think we're going to try to kick something off. I'm going to have a little game plan put together by the end of the day today.
I thought the
We can give away
limericks
some
were
money.
fun. When we had
Yeah.
them do the limericks, that was fun.
Yeah,
Some of them were pretty interesting.
but
Maybe
we need that buzzer, the button that censors people if we're going to do the limericks.
When is St. Patty's Day?
It's
Week from
Monday
Monday.
the 17th. The 17th.
Okay.
You don't know when St. Patrick's Day
Well, no, I
is?
know the date, but I was just like, is it Monday? Yeah, okay, so it's
You're
a week from
not
Monday.
Irish.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually English, really, but
Well, we got to send him to Belfast. There we go. No,
No,
I
we
think
want to
limerick-
send all the Englishmen in Belfast back to England.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Agreed.
yeah, I
That's-
have one, says Rebel Boy. I don't know what it is, and I don't know if I want to know what you have, Rebel Boy. I don't.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Well, we probably need to take a
Don't
break
show us.
this morning.
Don't.
Yeah, we got-
on that note, yeah, sure.
Huh? Yeah,
This is what-
we
this is
got to
what Larry
figure out
does.
what Rebel Boy's talking
You
about.
got to figure out what's going on with your mic, Pat. You got a hiss coming through
Yeah.
there, so see if you can hit it with your big hammer or something while we're on a break.
I
there,
noticed
so.
this jump into a break is what Harry always does when it gets a little uncomfortable. So I guess we can jump to a break now if you're ready.
Welcome back. You got the morning dish. I'm Patrick Malone, and alongside Sherry Raines and Packy Smith. So, do we have Congressman Clyde yet?
I
Packy?
think he's going to call in it right around the halfway point. So
Okay. All
Didn't
right.
they pull an all-nighter last night with the pretty much? Or am I?
I
did I
don't know that. I don't think the U.S. Congress did. He should be in the district today. He should be back home.
Okay, I'm thinking the state. Sorry.
Yeah, the state yesterday was crossover day for the Georgia General Assembly, which means anything that gets past one of the chambers will continue for this session. Any legislature that doesn't get out of at least one of the chambers is likely dead for the session. So,
Well, here's an interesting. I got to read this one, Packy.
all right.
Pat Malone, Georgia's oldest leprechaun.
Well,
You're also Georgia's tallest
Poor Pat.
leprechaun.
now, wait a minute. That's fairly complimentary based on
I
some of
agree.
the other comments that are there.
I agree. You just get to wear green tights instead of a dress.
Jerry, stop it. You notice when I introduced you, I didn't say you were replacing Steven. So
I
cut
did.
that crap
I
out.
did. And I just didn't want you to feel like neglected because Steven's not here to insult you through the whole show.
You know, I've been feeling really good for the last couple of days. Don't ruin it now.
Oh, he's been gone a couple of days. Okay.
Yeah, he left. I think it's Tuesday. He left, and Rob filled in for him Wednesday and Thursday, and you know, Rob and I usually get along. I thought you and I got along, but apparently I was wrong.
We do. We do.
Rebel Boy, look at that one.
I
Sherry
know.
is right on point.
So, do we know who Rebel Boy is? Does anybody know?
No,
This
no.
is an alias. Could
It's
this
a
be
mystery.
Steven? A mystery.
but I start flinching when people know my name. You know, I'm not sure. Are you Rebel Boy? We're supposed
Oh,
to
when you meet them out in public,
we're
right?
supposed to meet in a parking lot at some point. Behind the schoolyard.
Right. Oh, I thought you were banned from that. Oh no,
Yeah.
that's Steven.
Oh,
Okay, last one. Sorry.
all right. So what's going on in Cherokee County, Sherry?
Well, I've got my head under a bunch of fiber right now, so I don't really I don't stay on top of the county too much.
Yeah.
But there are a few developments. One of them I probably shouldn't really talk about right now. Make some people angry, but there's constant fighting back.
That's
and
what we
forth.
do here, though.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what we
Well,
specialize in.
There's a lot of course, you can't go by Facebook because people just tend to get very angry and say things they would normally say. But the situation with the school board is tense, and what they're going to do with the school building and where they're going to put it. And funny thing is, now they're talking about putting the new high school back over there by the college, which was what was being talked about 4 years ago,
Which they had
which they
$50
shot
million
down. Twice, yes.
they gave back.
Yes. And
Yeah.
now they're going to put it there. I mean, I thank God I don't have any school age children in Cherokee County right now. I mean, I just do. And we've got some great teachers and stuff over there, but my God, the support that, like I said, I shouldn't get into this because.
Well, it's a difficult situation with the number of campuses that they have and the aging condition of their facilities. I mean, it's costing them an arm and a leg
Exactly.
just to keep them patched together.
I mean, you would think that the education of the children would supersede being a bulldog or an eagle or whatever else, but apparently it doesn't. And I get having that school spirit, I really do. But we've got to do something with these schools. We're hemorrhaging students to other counties that have better school systems. That's just the truth.
Yeah,
It's just
it
the
is.
truth.
It is a difficult
So
situation.
now I've
We had-
pissed off half the county. Thanks, Pat.
well, I'm sorry. We're even now, Sherry. For my green tights or whatever you said.
Hey, if you do get
So I mean,
those
if you had
on-
a magic wand, though, what would you do? I mean, we've had Pat. You guys have had people from both sides. The commission board. You've had people on from the school board. You've had all these different sides, and it's kind of more of a pointing finger kind of. Maybe not directly, but it kind of, if only they had done this kind of thing. I mean, but it seems like there isn't an answer. It seems like if there was an answer, there'd be an answer. So
I
if
think
Pat,
the only answer is to consolidate the school districts. And this has been done in many other places. And yes, it's a little painful at first, but after that first 4 years of students goes through high school, all that's forgotten. It really, really is. It happened in Texas where I live. They had to consolidate the school districts. Of course, Texas is an independent school district. They don't get money from
and
the
that's
federal.
but the downside of that is the kids sitting on buses for really long times. Is that am I getting the gist of that?
I think if they had put I'm not a big supporter of putting it out at the college campus because it's such a long drive. If you got a kid out there in Violet or the far side of Hiawassee Dam, yeah, it's going to be a long ride for them. But what if they put a campus to the east and the west of the county, had 2 high schools, and consolidated some of these elementary and middle schools? I don't pretend to know what needs to be done, but the biggest thing is we can't get a plan together and nobody can agree on anything. So I don't know.
It just sounds like there isn't a solution. I mean, it seems
I'm
like
not
by
aware.
now somebody would have come up with something.
Peggy, I think there's a solution, and Sherry just gave us one. I think there isn't a solution that everyone is going to love.
Correct.
You're gonna tick off some people, whatever the solution is. But I think you got to look at the biggest thing to me. There's 2 things at play here: the way North Carolina funds teachers, the way it is right now. Cherokee County is funding, I don't know how many, 20, 30 teachers.
It's a lot. I mean, you take, and I'm not going to say the school. There's a particular school that some of those classes only have 2 or 3 kids in them. So that teacher has to be paid for by the school. From school funding, they get no state funding for that teacher's salary. And there's many. You're over 20. I'm almost sure.
I believe the last number I heard was 23, but I could be wrong. That could be a couple years old. But that's one, and the maintenance of the facilities is the other.
You got what, 13 or
big
14
deal.
buildings we're trying to maintain.
13.
Yeah, 13 now. That's right.
Yeah.
So, and every one of them is old. I mean, just the money that's been put into HVAC systems and heatings, the HVAC systems. Murphy High School, I went to school for about a year and a half when I was very much younger out at Ranger School when it was still the old school. And I toured the high school and it was in rough shape back then. And let me tell you, this was the late 70s. So that gives you some idea how old I am. But it is no better. It is pitiful conditions for our kids to be going to school in that school.
Well, it definitely is one that needs to totally be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It's
Agreed.
in that position. And, you know, it is going to be expensive. And the bad feature is Cherokee County is handcuffed by the settlement money that's going to be paid out for the next couple of years from the whole DSS problem.
Mm-hmm. Which was
That's
that's a whole nother sore subject right there. I mean, nobody was at the wheel, driving at the wheel on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but that one's in the past. I mean,
Right. We're still
living
paying.
with the residual impact of it, not having much flexibility financially. So,
But the fact is, either we're going to have to do something with the school, or, I mean, how many kids now are going to homeschool? I hear Harry getting angry about charter schools getting. You know what? If I had a kid in this school district right now, I would either homeschool them or send them to a charter school. I absolutely would, because it's not fair to the kids, and it's not fair to the teachers. I'm not picking on any of the teachers. All the teachers I knew do their best to do a very good job, but their hands are tied with such limited resources. Let's just say that.
yeah.
So,
It's
all right, I'm going to quit beating up on the county.
all right. Anything good?
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on. We've got,
How's your business?
we're busy. We are, we're in the middle.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, we're building 110 miles around the dam. We're going to go all the way around the lake with fiber. So we're about 3/4 of the way through the main part of that build, getting the main line in. So we are going to be offering connectivity to people who have not had any hope of it for a long time.
Are
So,
you doing that through grants?
This build, and that's what I really would love people to understand. This build that we're doing is on what's called Great Grant 2 through NCDIT. And so people, you got all that grant money. Why aren't you putting fiber over here? Well, we don't have a choice about where we get to put the fiber after the grant's been given to us. We have to apply, which we did. And we're given the addresses that the state says are underserved or unserved. And that's who we have to build past. Now we will hook up anybody else that's in that path, but we can't just say, oh, we're going to take, a third of this money and go over here and build out Marble. We'd love to do that, but we don't have that choice. So,
hey guys, let's go ahead and take a break
Yep.
because I think Clyde is going to call in here in a
good.
minute. I want to go ahead and have him on so we get as much out of him as we can. Okay.
Sounds
Well,
good. Welcome back. You got the morning dish. Stephen's off again today. I'm Patrick Malone along with Sherry Raines and Packy Smith. Do we have Congressman on?
Don't have him on yet. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Wake up, Andrew. Get out of bed.
now he's the congressman that also owns gun stores. Is that correct?
Yeah, he owns the Armory in Athens. I believe there's two stores that he owns, but his big claim to fame is he's got a contract with the U.S. government, the Department of Defense, for providing guns. So he's done well for himself, and he's been our congressman for this is his second term, I believe, right?
I've listened to him some. He's real conservative, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
How does that? Is there no conflict of interest though with the government contracts and the gun owner? I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know.
The contracts pre-existed, so
Okay.
I don't think there's a conflict. It's not new contracts that are being awarded.
So before he was a congressman, he already had these in place. I got you.
I've got a message from them now saying a lot to share. Going to call in a minute. Fun and busy week, so it should be
good.
interesting.
Good.
Hey, your congressman, Chuck Edwards.
Right.
My understanding was the Republicans were told not to have in-person town halls, and
Well,
I
he's
hear
gonna
that
continue.
he's coming to Asheville for a town hall.
I will give him a lot of credit for this. Either he or a representative is frequently in our county. Usually a representative, but yeah, I've met Chuck Edwards a couple of times. He does meet in person with his constituents frequently, and he said he is not going to be intimidated and not be where his people can, where people can talk to him. So I can respect that.
Yeah, I think that that's a very positive news, and he's going in probably to the most liberal area in his district.
You're right there. Yeah.
All right, we got him on there, Pat. We got Andrew on there. Good morning, Andrew.
Well, good morning. How are y'all?
We're good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Pat. How are you doing?
I am hanging in there. What'd you think of the Tuesday night address to Congress?
I think it was one of the most amazing and enlightening and just positive speeches I have ever heard from the president. It was incredible.
Got a quick question for you. Did you stand for the little boy with brain cancer, or did you sit that one out?
Oh no. I stood. I think
Okay.
one on my staff counted. We stood 104 times for his speech.
You would think that you could put aside, the Democrats could put aside, Trump, orange man bad for, 5 seconds to stand for the little boy with brain cancer. But I guess not doable. I guess
Trump derangement syndrome is, on steroids now, I guess. It's real. It has broken the Democrats, and they just, even good things they cannot
exactly.
Yeah,
they can't fathom.
Well, that's what we were talking about before you came on.
Yes.
Yep, you're right.
Well, maybe we shouldn't even say anything. Maybe we should just encourage them to keep doing it, because it's. I mean,
I don't think they can help themselves.
let them destroy themselves. I think it's kind of hilarious.
Well, they're showing their true colors, and that's what the nation needs to see. I will tell you that my hands at the end of that speech, they were so red and so sore from clapping. I don't think I've ever. It was just incredible. It was electrifying. The speech was uplifting, and like the president said, America is back. The golden age has begun, and he loves this country, and he's going to bring it back onto the right track. Help us do that, and we're going to help him do that.
So, Congressman, what's your assessment of the current situation with Ukraine? Are we going to get a ceasefire? I guess that's what we'd need first, and then are we going to get a peace deal?
The end goal is peace. That's it. Like he said, there's too many people dying. I believe there's a pathway there. Okay. And if anybody can find it, I think Donald Trump can find it, because he has leverage over both countries, and they respect him, and they fear him. Actually, I believe it's much more than respect. I believe it's fear. And I think that there will be a peace deal come out of this. I believe that you're probably right, Pat. A ceasefire will come first, but I believe there will be a peace deal that comes out of this, and I believe that this mineral deal will go through. I believe that America will get reimbursed for much of its, many of its billions of dollars that it has invested. And just the most tragic thing is that I think this could have been completely avoided if we'd have had different leadership in the White House. But I'm pretty sure, just like the Germans saw the Russians in the Winter War of 1939 with Finland, all right, where the Russians were completely incompetent. The Russians saw Americans as completely incompetent in the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And so therefore they said, this is the time, this is the opportunity. We can go in and take Ukraine because the United States is weak, and they will not stand up. And I give it to the Ukrainians. They stood stronger, I think, than anyone in the world thought that they ever would. And but now is time. Now is the time for peace.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope you're spot on. The other thing, I got a press release about a CRA that you did to get rid of those crazy energy rules that came about in the Biden era. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the benefit is to the constituents in your district and throughout the country?
Absolutely. That rule, excuse me, that rule that the Biden administration put in place was going to end up costing the American people billion. And that is an incredible amount of money, because when the Department of Energy comes in and puts new rules in place for general home appliances, we're talking stoves, we're talking dishwashers, microwaves, light bulbs, general home appliances that make it more difficult for manufacturers to make these products. It was estimated that it would take at least another 2,900 man hours just to comply with the paperwork requirements of this new rule for every manufacturer. And then you have the additional cost that would be passed on to consumers. American people, we're a free country. We deserve to buy what appliances we want. I don't know if you've probably noticed the gas cans that have come out. Okay, that
They don't work.
Gas cans that you've
That's right.
seen. I mean, it's this funky nozzle that is almost impossible to use.
Yeah.
And I hate that. That's an example, up close and personal of a Biden rule, of a rule from the Department of Energy that makes no sense whatsoever. These are the things that we have to repeal, because it just makes everything more costly for the American people. And that shouldn't be. Government needs to get out of our lives. And having all these rules about dishwashers and washing machines and dryers and all of these home appliances is just nuts.
They're junk too. I mean, if you buy like a washing machine or something, the lifespan on these things it's only 5 or 6 years.
That's
But if you had some old Electrolux from the 90s or something, that son of a gun's still running today, man, because it doesn't have all the soy wiring, all this stupid things that they require you to
Trying
put
to
in
make everybody go all electric on everything. I mean, my electric bill's already through the roof, for one thing. But do
Agreed.
people realize where electricity actually comes from? Very little comes from wind. You've got hydro, but a lot of these turbine engines are gas turbine engines that produce our electricity.
Some of this stuff doesn't ever make enough energy that it took to make itself. Isn't that true, Pat? Weren't you and I talking about that, like a windmill? Yeah, it's like it doesn't create the amount of energy.
The wind turbines, the energy used to create the wind turbine will never in its lifespan get paid back by the wind turbine.
And what is the lifespan of the wind turbine? And what do they do with all those blades? And what about the endangerment to animal species that are around these turbines? I'm sorry.
Those are all excellent points, because you're correct. The energy that it takes to actually make that huge wind turbine will never actually be recouped in the lifetime of that turbine in the energy that it creates harnessing the wind.
Mm-hmm.
So, Andrew, really quick, we like to open up the phone lines in our chat room here in our YouTube channel to people. So just ask you questions and stuff. So this says, Packy, ask him, please, when will the tax break happen on overtime work? Thank you.
On overtime work. Okay. Well, first, you have the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which the president passed in Congress passed in 2017, was signed into law. That actually expires the end of this year, the end of calendar year 25. We are working to extend that so we do not have on average, a 22% federal tax increase on everyday Americans. All right. That's number one. Okay. Now, in addition, the president has mentioned both no tax on tips and no tax on overtime and no tax on Social Security. All right. Now, remember this, every time we make a tax cut, all right, it takes a while for that tax cut, for the economy to respond to that tax cut, and then to increase economic activity. It's called GDP, gross domestic product. In order to increase federal revenue across the board because of increased economic activity, increased production, to make up for that tax cut. So initially, you actually have a reduction in taxes that are received at the federal level. So we have to, in some way, shape, or form, make up for that. And we do that through spending cuts, all right, in addition to the eventual economic activity. We are working right now. We passed the resolution to implement the tax cuts, or to extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Now the committees have the hard work of going in and actually creating the law that implements these tax cuts. Okay. That will be probably 2 months. We have a goal of the end of April to actually implement these things. And then you will see that take effect. We're hoping before the end of the year. We know that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, its extension will be next year, but no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. That's the best guess. Maybe by July or August we'll actually see that written into law. But it depends whether the law will say the start date is maybe 1 January or when that actually happens, because that's actually going to be written by the Ways and Means Committee. Okay, and then we'll vote on that.
So
the extension of the 2017 Jobs Act, is that going to be made permanent, or is it going to have another sunset day?
No, the goal is to make it permanent.
Okay.
All right. When you push it out 10 years, they look at that as quote permanent. Okay, the difference in economic activity between a 10-year budget window, if it's pushed out 10 years, then they look at that as permanent. But that's what the president has requested, that it be permanent. And we just have to make sure that all the members of Congress are on board with that, as opposed to making it 5 years or 8 years or something like that. So I'm very much in favor of making it permanent.
Keeping on that same thing about keeping things permanent. DOGE, like, they can only do so much, and Pat and I, we go back and forth about that. And Pat's right. I mean, you can't. Congress has to act to make some of these cuts permanent. We just saw, some of the stuff get shot down in the Supreme Court. But what I specifically want to ask you about is that there is some rumors about some 20% coming back to the people, right? 80% going to the national debt, 20% going back to the people in some form of, not stimulus, but some kind of refunds. Is that just nonsense, or is that something that's actually in the works?
No, I would say I've not heard about the 20% coming back to the people, but let me just give you all this financial warning, okay? We have got to tackle our national debt. Remember, we have a deficit. When you have a deficit, that means less money coming in than going out on an annual basis. Our deficit is currently $1.7 trillion a year, okay? So that means on our national debt, which is $36 trillion, every year we get 1.7 to 2, somewhere in there, added to that national debt. So next year, if we have the same deficit, we're going to see $38 trillion. All right. And then you have the interest rate that has to be paid, or the interest that has to be paid. And that interest rate is increasing because as the bond market, as the U.S. savings bonds mature and they're paid off in full to the people who bought them, they have to issue new debt, and the new debt that's issued is issued at a higher interest rate because interest rates are higher because of the Biden economy, inflation. So that means that the United States, the first thing we have to do is pay that interest. So we're paying, if it was 1% and it's now 4%, we're now paying 4 times as much interest. We have got to focus on paying off or reducing the deficit, balancing the budget, and then starting to pay off our debt, or we are going to be in desperate financial situations. I believe worse than the Depression of 1929.
Yeah, I can see that. I wanted to ask a question, and it's probably not going to be super popular, but I've been watching all this back and forth with tariffs and cutting jobs, and I'm fully in support of cutting the fat because, my God, there's a lot of waste. But what is confusing and I think really sad for people who are losing their jobs is like, you're fired today. Oh, no, come back. You're fired. Oh, no, come back. Can we just maybe slow down and really research before we say you're fired or we're ending this? Because there's just a lot of confusion. Like for me, I don't really understand what's going on.
Well, I think what you're seeing is there's not a lot of you're fired, oh, no, come back. Okay. There is some of that. All right. Because this is a massive operation
right.
that is trying to get a hold of the incredible expanse of the federal government over the last 4 years. And so there are going to be some mistakes made, and I get that, but they will be corrected when they're found. Okay. But I don't believe there will be a whole lot of mistakes. Go ahead.
I think some of these jobs, though, that these people have, I mean, it's unfortunate for them, and nobody likes to sit there and watch somebody lose their job, obviously, but the job shouldn't have been created in the first place.
You're correct. And if you go back, even if you go back to one of the last time that we had a balanced budget, which was actually during the Clinton era, Okay, that was, I think, 97 or 96. President Clinton, when he came into office, he cut over 400,000 federal jobs. We're not even near that. And we have a much larger federal government now than we did in the 90s.
No, I totally support that, especially with all these folks that went home for COVID and never came back.
Correct.
You know, and can't even answer what they're doing. What did you do last week? I mean, I have to answer at my job. What have I done? You know, to my
I have
boss.
to make up an answer every week, man. I gotta make up some BS. I spend more time figuring out the lie than I do actually working, bro.
Hey, Pac, we're gonna have to take a break here a second.
Yeah, we do. But let's keep going for just a second. Anybody else have anything they want to ask? Anything you want to throw out there, Andrew, as far as just something you wanted to brag about or something you wanted to make sure your constituents know?
Absolutely. On Monday, I introduced the bill to change to pave over the BLM Plaza right off Lafayette Square in front of the White House, because I want Washington, D.C. to be not just a safe city for all of the constituents in the 9th when they come to visit Washington, D.C., but I want it to be a good experience. And the Black Lives Matter slogan, that entity is so divisive in our country. It does not unify our people. It divides our people. And so that message has to be erased from Washington, D.C. I put that bill in. I dropped that bill on Monday. On Tuesday evening, less than 24 hours later, the mayor of Washington, D.C. conceded and said, okay, we're going to remove Black Lives Matter Plaza. We're going to rename it, and we're going to remove that slogan. You know, that's what has to happen. We have to take back our capital city for the American people, because it belongs to the American people. And when you have a slogan like that, you know, coming from our capital city to the entire world, that's wrong. So we have to fix that.
It's a device.
Absolutely.
And
it's very divisive.
all I can think of is the term melting pot. And when people talk about that, they try to twist that into a thing where it's like, you know, we're all different. But no, I think the thing about a melting pot is that when you melt it all together, you can't tell the differences because it's all melted together. And I think that's what people don't understand about it. Really quick, Andrew, I always like to get your constituent questions in there. I know we got just a few minutes left, though, so try to make these fast if you can. Drew Vogel, has our interest payment gotten higher than how much we spend on military yet?
Oh, yes, it has. We spend just under $900 billion on military. On interest, we pay $1,150 billion. So $250 billion more on interest as of right now than we do on military.
And also another listener here, Social Security is to run out in 8 years. What is Congress doing about that? And can some of this found money be put back into that fund?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that we are going to do in this reconciliation bill. We are going to shore up Social Security by finding all the waste, fraud, and abuse in it. And it has been tremendous. What DOJ has found, $2 billion a week going to people without Social Security numbers. That's insane. That's money that has to be clawed back and stopped so we can preserve Social Security and extend it for years to come.
How has that happened, though? That and people that are well over 100 years old.
And how do I get on that list?
I mean, has there never been an audit of Social Security?
Well, one of the issues is the multiple different platforms that they use. You know, the tech platforms, the computer programs that they use don't talk to each other very well. And Elon Musk this past week, I think a couple days ago, gave us a great example. You know, all these people over 114 years old, okay, there's not a whole lot of them are actually getting Social Security checks, but the Small Business Administration issued $300 million, okay, of grants to people who are over 114 years old, and $0 have ever been paid back. Okay, actually there were loans, not grants. $0 have been paid back. So people are using those people who are still alive in the Social Security system, all right, to defraud the federal government.
That makes sense. I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't make sense, but that's just god awful.
Right, because they use the Social Security database to check and see whether is this person alive. Okay, and well, if they say that they're alive, then, you know, they get issued a Small Business Administration loan, and we just lost $300 million to people who, you know, we can't chase because they're dead.
Andrew, we appreciate everything you're doing up there. Keep up the good work. Continue holding people's feet to the fire.
We will, Pat. We absolutely will. It's great to be on WJRB.
Thanks, Andrew. We love you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Welcome back. You know, we get some good information from Congressman Clyde when we get a chance to talk to him every other week.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I mean, I appreciate his stance on most everything he talks about. The only reason I asked the question I asked is I think it's a little confusing for regular Americans when you say, okay, a bunch of people got fired from the CDC, and then another email went out, you're not fired. And that would, if I had a job, which I do, and I got an email that says you're fired, and then after 2 weeks, I got another email that says, oh, you're not fired. I don't know. Hey, we survived the hour, Pat. We survived.
Thanks, Terry, thank you very much for sitting in for Stephen.
Good to see
We
you guys.
always appreciate having you.
Great weekend, y'all.
See you guys.